What is going on, YouTube? I wanted to come back with some NBA content, just concerning. I think one of the more likely trades to happen this offseason, and one of the names that's showing up more commonly in the trade markets in the last few weeks, last few months. It's Chris Paul, the veteran star point guard for the OKC Thunder. Um, he received his 10th career All-Star selection in the 2019-20 season, helped push Billy Donovan to become a Coach of the Year award finalist, and really had a nice bounce-back season in the NBA after getting traded in that Russell Westbrook deal with the Rockets around the middle of the crazy last offseason in summer 2019. So the reasoning, obviously, for the Chris Paul trade, I think, would be just the Thunder wanting to blow it all up. They already parted ways with Billy Donovan. It looks like Danilo Gallinari is pretty much set to become a free agent as is. And it just might be time for them to start building around like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, wherever they use their first round pick this year. And if they can package together Chris Paul, shipping off maybe Steven Adams, then, they might be able to get something pretty nice there in return and start building around a new young core. They really just it looks like they were kind of taking on a rental of sorts with Danilo Gallinari and Chris Paul, Danilo coming over with the trade with the Clippers for Paul George, excuse me. And, they were a really surprising, really good team this year. Drove the Rockets to the brink in a first round 7-game series. They literally almost came down to the last second. What was that? Lou Dort trying to bounce the ball off James Harden and it going out of bounds, and Rockets moving on to face the Lakers. Now, the specific context of this video is the best landing spots for Chris Paul. I'm going to name two of my honorable mentions, teams that a lot of people are talking about that he could go to this year. The first one is the Los Angeles Lakers. I also think this is the least likely of the bunch, but if you do have some cap flexibility with the Lakers right now, and a lot of it. 10 of the Lakers players on the current roster are set to become free agents when this cycle of free agency begins, I believe, tomorrow. One of those players is, or could be, Anthony Davis. Now, with Anthony Davis declining his player option, it's not really a situation where I think he'll become a free agent and explore his options, but it could give the Lakers a little bit more cap flexibility to go out and sign or trade for a big third star to help them repeat next season. Chris Paul would definitely be on that short list of players that could get that done. So again, it seems limited just because if they do manage to get that enormous contract of Chris Paul over to the team, they would, it'd just be a whole bunch of minimum deals around AD, Chris Paul, and LeBron James. Also would be a really, really good team, but still. The next one after that would be the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I think the Bucks have more to work with. Get Giannis some help. They have some larger contracts. I think they have a few more trade chips to make that a little bit more realistic, and honestly, just more motivation to, they were kind of embarrassed by the 5-seed Heat in the second round of the playoffs, ousted in 5 games. And you do have to give Giannis some help beyond Chris Middleton. Middleton was good at times in that second round series, but I think we've seen time in and time out that they really need that third big player that can help when Giannis might be injured or tired, or they're just constant, or he's just constantly getting doubled within the 2-point arc, and then when Chris Middleton goes cold, it happens. Now move into the top 3. The first team up, and the one that a lot of people are just going to talk about, is the New York Knicks. So I think it's realistic that he goes to the Knicks. They've traded for aging stars before. It wouldn't be anything new. In terms of what the Thunder could get in return, there's a lot of young players on the Knicks. I don't know how many actual player assets they have beyond maybe RJ Barrett. And I don't think they're going to part ways with him to get Chris Paul. But you have a plethora of draft picks. Even if you get Chris Paul, the Knicks might still be a lottery team. Just because they get Chris Paul doesn't mean that they're going to get a push into the playoffs without any of the other supporting cast. With that in mind, the Knicks treated last offseason in a sense that they have a lot of cap flexibility. So salary matching or making this deal happen is, something cap-wise they could probably get done. My second team up, and I think it of the three is the least realistic, but also has the most tangible connections. And that's the Chicago Bulls. This is a team I cover. Um, I'm not a huge fan personally of the fit with Chris Paul with the Bulls with how it stands now, because I think the Bulls do have some momentum pushing in the right direction. A lot of good young players. No one that's really great, depending on how your opinion of Zach LaVine shakes out. But LaVine, Kobe White, Larry Markkinen, Wendell Carter, Daniel Gafford, they have a lot of good young pieces. And even beyond that, I think that Thad Young, Satoransky, Otto Porter, if all those guys can stay healthy, they still offer a lot of value. And they have the 4th overall pick in this draft. But if Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, the new front office regime replacing Garpax, if they want to get finally that star player to the Bulls, they could do it. You have Billy Donovan that they hired to replace Jim Boylan. So obviously you have that Thunder connection there. So it would make sense. And Chris Paul, Kobe White, they've had connections in the past. Kobe White attending Chris Paul's camp. I think Kobe White, while he showed a ton of promise down the stretch last season, very much could use a veteran point guard like Chris Paul helping him out in the rotation. So you have a lot of connections there, and I think it makes sense. But again, it just in terms of stalling the momentum of the Bulls rebuild, especially with all the changes they've made from coaching staff to front office, that would be a mark against trading for Chris Paul. Now, the last team that I had up and kind of the most intriguing to me is the Philadelphia 76ers. There's any number of ways that the Sixers can go this offseason. Hiring Doc Rivers, parting ways with Brett Brown. You have to figure out the whole Embiid, Ben Simmons dynamic. I mean, that's going to be the main storyline for pretty much the entire offseason for them. And is Doc Rivers able to hone that in? I don't know. Chris Paul's had his problems trying to form chemistry together around star players in the past. That's kind of what led to his demise with the Celtics, with the Clippers, and got him to where he is now. Very good coach. I mean, I don't have anything against that, but I the reason why the Clippers went out and hired Tyronn Lue is I think there's a ceiling on sometimes what he can do with some of the brightest stars in the league. Now, the Sixers do have a lot of trade assets that they could use. Mainly the oversized contract of Tobias Harris. I think that Chris Paul, given his price tag, is worth more than Tobias Harris, given his price tag, because Tobias Harris is pretty much on a max contract for like 4 years. His turn, while Tobias Harris is a solid player, definitely a quality starter, the fact that he's getting it's like around the ballpark of like 35, 40 million for a good portion of the rest of his current contract is a huge detriment to whatever cap sheet he's on. So that would be an interesting scenario to work out there. I think that would be something to keep an eye on. Obviously, if the Sixers trade the Thunder for Chris Paul, that's probably signaling the end of Ben Simmons. I could be wrong on that. Maybe they try to pair those two together, but those are two guys that are facilitators, generally only run at the one. I mean, I guess you could move Ben Simmons back to more of a point forward sort of position, but that would be an interesting fit for sure. So those are my 3 teams in no order inside the top 3, but different reasons for each. And then you have the Lakers and Milwaukee Bucks outside, obviously 2 of the most talented teams in the NBA, 2 best regular season records from the 2019-20 season. And then inside the top 3, 3 more struggling or teams in a lot of maybe a tumultuous, kind of inconsistent sort of situation this offseason with the Sixers, Bulls, and Knicks. But that's pretty much it. I do want to come back with I believe my first edition of the 2020 NBA mock draft later today. So that's pretty much it. See ya.